Welcome back to Major Intonio's presentation of Early Kings of Norway by Thomas Carlyle. Chapter 15, Hakon the Old at Largs.
In the Norse annals, our famous Battle of Largs makes small figure, or almost none at all, among Hakon's battles and feats. They do say indeed, these Norse annalists, that the King of Scotland, Alexander III, who had such a fate among the crags about Kinghorn in time coming, was very anxious to purchase from King Hakon his sovereignty of the Western Isles, but that Hakon pointedly refused, and at length, being again importuned and bothered on the business, decided on giving a refusal that could not be mistaken. Decided, namely, to go with a big expedition and look thoroughly into that wing of his dominions, where no doubt much has fallen awry since Magnus Barefoot's grand visit thither, and seems to be inviting the cupidity of bad neighbors. All this we will put right again, thinks Hakon, and gird it up into a safe and defensive posture. Hakon sailed accordingly with a strong fleet, adjusting and rectifying among his Hebrides as he went long, and landing withal on the Scotch coast to plunder and punish as he thought fit. The Scots say he had claimed of them Arran, Bute, and the 2 Cumbraes. Given my ancestors by Donald Bain, said Hakon to the amazement of the Scots, as part of the Sudor, Southern Isles, so far from selling that fine kingdom, and that it was after taking both Arran and Bute that he made his descent at Largs. Of Largs there is no mention whatever in Norse books, but beyond any doubt, such is the other evidence, Hakon did land there, land and fight, not conquering, probably rather beaten, and very certainly retiring to his ships, as in either case he behooved to do. It is further certain he was dreadfully maltreated by the weather on those wild coasts, and altogether credible, as the Scotch records bear, that he was so at Largs very specially. The Norse records or sagas say merely, he lost many of his ships by the tempests, and many of his men by land fighting in various parts, tacitly including Largs, no doubt, which was the last of these misfortunes to him. In the battle here he lost 15,000 men, say the Scots, we 5,000. Divide these numbers by 10, and the excellently brief and lucid Scottish summary by Buchanan may be taken as the approximately true and exact. Date of the battle is AD 1263. To this day, on a little plain to the south of the village, now town of Largs in Ayrshire, there are seen stone cairns and monumental heaps, and until within a century ago, one huge, solitary, upright stone, still mutely testifying to a battle there, altogether clearly to this battle of King Hakon's, who by the Norse records too was in these neighborhoods at that same date, and evidently in an aggressive, high kind of humor. For while his ships and army were doubling the Mull of Cantyre, he had his own boat set on wheels, and therein splendidly enough had himself drawn across the promontory at a flatter part, no doubt with horns sounding, banners waving. All to the left of me is mine and Norway's, exclaimed Hakon in his triumphant boat progress, which such disasters soon followed. Hakon gathered his wrecks together and sorrowfully made for Orkney. It is possible enough, as our guidebooks now say, he may have gone by Iona, Mull, and the narrow seas inside of Skye, and that the Kyle Akin, favorably known to sea bathers in that region, may actually mean the Kyle, narrow strait of Hakon, where Hakon may have dropped anchor and rested for a little while in smooth water and beautiful environment, safe from equinoctial storms. But poor Hakon's heart was now broken. He went to Orkney, died there in the winter, never beholding Norway more. He it was who got Iceland, which had been a republic for 4 centuries, united to his kingdom of Norway, a long and intricate operation, much presided over by our Snorro Sturluson, so often quoted here, who indeed lost his life by assassination from his sons-in-law, and out of great wealth sank at once into poverty of 0, one midnight in his own cellar, in the course of that bad business. Hakon was a great politician in his time, and succeeded in many things before he lost Largs. Snorro's death by murder had happened about 20 years before Hakon's by broken heart. He is called Hakon the Old, though one finds his age was but 59, probably a longish life for a Norway king. Snorro's narrative ceases when Snorro himself was born, that is to say, at the threshold of King Sverrir, of whose exploits and doubtful birth it is guessed by some that Snorro willingly forbore to speak in the hearing of such a Hakon.
Epilogue.
Haarfagr's kindred lasted some 3 centuries in Norway. Sverrir's lasted into its 3rd century there. How long after this among the neighboring kinships I did not inquire. For by regal affinities, consanguinities, and unexpected chances and changes, the 3 Scandinavian kingdoms fell all peaceably together under Queen Margaret of the Kalmar Union, AD 1397, and Norway, incorporated now with Denmark, needed no more kings. The history of these Haarfagrs has awakened in me many thoughts of despotism and democracy, arbitrary government by one and self-government, which means no government, or anarchy, by all, of dictatorship with many faults, and universal suffrage with little possibility of any virtue. For the contrast between Olaf Tryggveson and a universal suffrage parliament or an imperial copper captain has, in these 9 centuries, grown to be very great. And the eternal providence that guides all this and produces alike these entities with their epochs, is not its course still through the great deep? Does not it still speak to us, if we have ears? Here, clothed in stormy enough passions and instincts, unconscious of any aim but their own satisfaction, is the blessed beginning of human order, regulation, and real government. There, clothed in a highly different, but again suitable garniture of passions, instincts, and equally unconscious as to real aim, is the accursed-looking ending, temporary ending, of order, regulation, and government. Very dismal to the sane onlooker for the time being. Not dismal to him, otherwise, his hope too being steadfast. But here, at any rate, in this poor Norse theatre, one looks with interest on the first transformation, so mysterious and abstruse, of human chaos into something of articulate cosmos, witnesses the wild and strange birth pangs of human society, and reflects that without something similar, little as men expect such now, no cosmos of human society ever was got into existence, nor can ever again be. The violences, fightings, crimes, ah yes, these seldom fail, and they are very lamentable. But always, too, among those old populations there was one saving element, the now want of which, especially the unlamented want, transcends all lamentation. Here is one of those strange, piercing, winged words of Ruskin, which has in it a terrible truth for us in these epochs now come. Quote, "My friends, the follies of modern liberalism, many and great though they be, are practically summed in this denial or neglect of the quality and intrinsic value of things. Its rectangular beatitudes and spherical benevolences, theology of universal indulgence, and jurisprudence which will hang no rogues, mean, one and all of them, in the root, incapacity of discerning, or refusal to discern, worth and unworth in anything, and least of all in man. Whereas nature and heaven command you at your peril to discern worth from unworth in everything, and most of all in man. Your main problem is that ancient and trite one, who is best man? And the fates forgive much, forgive the wildest, fiercest, cruelest experiments, if fairly made for the determination of that. Theft and blood guiltiness are not pleasing in their sight, yet the favoring powers of the spiritual and material world will confirm to you your stolen goods, and their noblest voices applaud the lifting of your spear, and rehearse the sculpture of your shield, if only your robbing and slaying have been in fair arbitrament of that question, who is best man? But if you refuse such inquiry, and maintain every man for his neighbor's match, if you give vote to the simple and liberty to the vile, the powers of those spiritual and material worlds in due time present you inevitably with the same problem, soluble now only wrong side upwards, and your robbing and slaying must be done then to find out who is worst man, which in so wide an order of merit is indeed not easy, but a complete Tammany ring and lowest circle in the inferno of worst you are sure to find and to be governed by." Unquote. All readers will admit that there was something naturally royal in these Haarfagr kings. A wildly great kind of kindred counts in it 2 heroes of a high or almost highest type, the first 2 Olafs, Tryggveson and the Saint. And the view of them, withal, as we chance to have it, I have often thought how essentially Homeric it was. Indeed, what is Homer himself but the rhapsody of 5 centuries of Greek skalds and wandering ballad singers, done, i.e. stitched together, by somebody more musical than Snorro was? Olaf Tryggveson and Olaf Saint please me quite as well in their prosaic form, offering me the truth of them as if seen in their real lineaments by some marvelous opening, through the art of Snorro, across the black strata of the ages. too high, almost among the highest sons of nature, seen as they veritably were, fairly comparable or superior to godlike Achilles, goddess-wounding Diomedes, much more to the two Atreidai, regulators of the peoples. I have also thought often what a book might be made of Snorro, did there but arise a man furnished with due literary insight and indefatigable diligence, who, faithfully acquainting himself with the topography, the monumental relies and illustrative actualities of Norway, carefully scanning the best testimonies as to place and time which that country can still give him, carefully the best collateral records and chronologies of other countries, and who himself possessing the highest faculty of a poet, could, abridging, arranging, elucidating, reduce Snorro to a polished cosmic state, unweariedly purging away his much chaotic matter. A modern, highest kind of poet, capable of unlimited slavish labor withal, who, I fear, is not soon to be expected in this world, or likely to find his task in the Heimskringla if he did appear here.
This concludes Early Kings of Norway, by Thomas Carlyle. We hope you've enjoyed this volume. For more military history audiobooks, subscribe to Major Intonio's YouTube channel. Thank you for listening, and so long.